Oh, hi there. I'm going to talk about Pokemon cards today. Now I realize they're a bit out of date. Well, quite out of date. They first came out in 1999, so that was about 17 years ago. I was about 13, 14 years old when I started collecting them. Now, a lot of people spent a lot of money. There was a whole craze about Pokemon cards during that time. And everybody wanted the shiny Pokemon cards because they were rare and harder to find. A lot of people never got into that craze of Pokemon, and that was a good thing because they were a terrible waste of money. Even if you found the rare ones you wanted, they still never added up to what you actually spent on them. It was like gambling. And as a younger generation, it was our first addiction, really. It was before alcohol, before crack, before gambling, before any of that came Pokemon cards, and they were our first addiction. Must have had some sort of brain stimulation at the time. However, most of the people who collected Pokemon cards in their early youth still have them somewhere in their basement or something like that. And some of those actually are still worth a little bit of money, whether you want to believe it or not. But it depends on which ones you're looking at that determines if they're worth anything or not. I'm going to show you the difference between some that are absolutely worthless and some that are worth a little bit of money and the ones you ideally want. Now, I have a few shinies, as they're called. The foil back ones. Some of them are not worth very much at all, and some of them are worth a little bit of money. I don't have any of the really good ones. How you can tell which ones are what they'd call the good ones and which ones aren't are usually by if they have the first edition. Now it turns out I don't have any first edition shiny cards. They were really hard to get, and I didn't get into collecting Pokemon cards until the first edition started drying up. I don't know exactly how long they were in circulation for, but I did have the opportunity one time to buy an Alakazam first edition. I have one right here to show you what it looks like. Oh, where is it now? Oh, here we go. Yeah. But as you can see, that one's not a first edition, and it would have cost me $11. But I was with my aunt, and we were in a highly competitive state with my cousin, so I didn't have any money, and I asked her to buy it for me, and I'd pay her back later, or get my parents to, and she refused to do it. But I hung around just long enough so that she couldn't buy it for my cousin. So at least he didn't get it because we were very competitive at the time. And it's a real shame because that card would probably be worth at least $100 now. And the card dealership only wanted $11 for it. So that was a regrettable waste. I wish I had $11 on me at the time. I would have kept it. A lot of my Pokemon cards disappeared over the years. I used to have more shinies that didn't have symbols on them because the later editions had symbols on them. I'll show you one right here with a classic example. At the top you will notice it says it's under the gold bar under the picture. It describes what the Pokemon is, the length of the Pokemon and the weight. Here, I'll give you another look. And to the right you will notice that there's a flower. Now, you don't want that flower. That flower is bad news. It immediately means your card's not worth as much, nearly as much. And there are other things too, like this one has a skeleton hand on it, and that's also, you don't want that either. And another one is there's a 2 and a Pokeball. You don't want that. And then there's ones with R and a few other different variations of them, but they all downgrade the value of the card immensely because they're not the original releases. Unfortunately, a lot of the ones I have do have those stupid symbols on them. They didn't use. I used to have more. I don't know where they went to because I had to move, and a lot of them got misplaced. So that's understandable that that would happen. But anyway, I'll show you the symbol that you do want. And this is actually my first edition. And it's on the left side, you see the first edition. And there's nothing on the right side. It's completely blank. And that's what you want. So you can get first editions that have the first edition on the left and still have a symbol on the right. And although they're worth a little bit of money, there's still, you don't want that symbol on the right. That totally downgrades them. My first editions from the original set aren't worth particularly a lot. I like having them because I like having a collection, but they'd probably go for about 10 bucks each. Sometimes you can get them cheaper on Amazon or on eBay, or sometimes they're more expensive. But it was ultimately the shiny ones that are worth anywhere from $80 to $500, depending on which one. I did hear that the Charizard first edition is worth $1,000, but I have seen it on eBay for much less. So, I mean, the ultimate rule of thumb is something's only worth as much as someone's willing to pay for it. So that being the case, you never know. If you can find someone who's willing to pay for it who's not a complete schmuck, because you hate for them to come back after you after they found out it wasn't worth very much. There are different types of Pokemon cards that had some value to them as well. Like I have one right here, which I got at, I forget where I got it from. I may have gotten it when I saw the really lame movie about Pokemon, which I don't recommend to anyone. But you'll notice on the right hand side it says promo in small writing. So that might be worth a little something, although my one has a scratch on it. I have other promos as well. And there's this kind of Egyptian looking Mew, which I've seen valued about $10 on eBay. So I have two of them, so that's 20 bucks right there on a little piece of paper, really. So that's worth having. It's worth digging these things up because most relatively young people did collect Pokemon cards. Almost everybody did. So most people still have theirs. And some of them are worth a little bit of money. On Amazon, I saw a Hitmonchan going for $35. They had a few of them, and they all sold. As it turns out, I have 4 Hitmonchans. And I also have a Hitmonchan that has a stupid symbol on the right corner, which you don't want. So that's probably worth less. But I have 4 Hitmonchan, so that's not bad going. I plan on expanding my collection by just picking up small cheap cards, because even the common Pokemon cards that are first edition are still worth $4, $5, $6, and they're worth having, I think, if you're a serious collector. They may never be worth more than that, but if you don't take chances if you're a collector, then you'll never know. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I'm going to go for it because I still have an interest in Pokemon cards. I know that sounds lame, but I was once really, really into them. There's nowhere near as much interest in it that I used to have, but I still like them. They're still kind of nice, and they remind me of my childhood, and I don't know, I don't think you should just abandon them like some bad pornography that you wish you never watched. Yeah, I did have more before, but a lot of them disappeared, unfortunately. I would not recommend that you go crazy about it, even if you're obsessed with Pokemon, and spend $500 on a first edition shiny. The 20th anniversary is coming out. I know it just came out, or it's about to come out in Japan, and they're going to re-release the originals. Now, I guarantee they're going to do something to them to decrease their value. Like put a symbol on them or something like that, or whatever. And they may not ever take off. They may not get the same excitement that the original Pokemon cards got. But the 20th anniversary is going to come along for North America too in a few years, and likely Pokemon will try and make a comeback then. Some people still collected Pokemon cards. Some people are new to the game and will go into their local store and try and buy Pokemon cards. And they got all kinds that are just, they're stupid. I have no interest in them at all. They got stupid names, and it's like they ran out of creativity when the first 102 Pokemon came out. They ran out of ideas. And most of them, to be honest with you, are just animals that have already existed that they put a name on and gave it some special powers and things like that. So they were never really that creative. Apparently, I know I got them somewhere. Oh yeah, here's a prime example. I got a first edition red energy card, as you can see on the top corner. That one is worth about 20 bucks. And I got another one too. Well, I actually got two more. I got a double colorless energy, that's first edition. And I also have the fighting energy, the brown energy Pokemon card, that's first edition. So I've seen them going for 20 bucks, so I reckon I could get 20 bucks for them if I find the right person to buy them. But it all depends. Like I said, you have to find someone willing to pay that kind of money for them. My goal is to just pick up cards cheap on eBay and just add to the collection so that I can pass them down at some point in my life. There's some things about Pokemon that I'll never get back into, like the original video games for the Nintendo Game Boy. The graphics were terrible, tiny little screen, no color. It was a terrible game, and it was a total waste of time, and I'll never get back into that again. And the TV show? Nah, I'm not interested. It is nice to go down memory lane and watch something that you used to really enjoy, mostly because that was basically all that was on TV, I noticed. I mean, when you're a certain age, it feels like there's only one thing at a time on TV. And at my particular point of life, Pokemon was all that was on TV. And everyone was collecting Pokemon cards, so it just swooped in like a bird of prey, or came in like a tsunami. Everyone became obsessed with these things. There's some Pokemon cards that I do like a lot. They're not worth particularly a lot. Like here's a Gyarados, not a first edition. The first edition I saw on eBay was about 87 bucks. So that's kind of expensive. Well, if you're really into Pokemon cards, then it's worth it, but I would not recommend paying that kind of money for them. But this one is kind of nice to have. Another one that's nice to have that I like, because I remember getting this on my birthday, is a first edition Machamp. And you got this in a box set before. Now this box set always came with a first edition Machamp. So it's the one shiny that doesn't have a symbol on the right, that's a first edition, that's worth considerably less, because there was a guaranteed way of getting it. So still, I like the card, and it's not like the set was free. You had to pay like 40 bucks for it. It was just a particular set, and it was like the one Pokemon card in it that was worth anything. So this one's probably worth about $20–$25. I wouldn't pay $25 for it, but you could probably sell it for that much. Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting thing. Yeah, I guess that's really all I gotta say about them. Just, yeah, my advice is stick away from the ones that have symbols on the right hand side of the card next to the point where they say what type of Pokemon it is, the length and the weight. Because that symbol means it's considerably worth less, so avoid those ones. Try and get your hands on first editions, because even if they're like common Pokemon cards, they're still worth $5-6. And if you have a handful of them, then you may have $50, $60 just sitting in your garage or sitting in your basement. And if you really despise Pokemon cards, then you can always get rid of them. Just sell them, and then that's a bit of money in your pocket that's worth having. You may as well not leave them in your basement to rot, or forget about them and just leave them there for someone to steal or something like that. I'm not entirely confident Pokemon cards are going to make a resurgence, but if they did, I'm going to be one step ahead of the game, because I'm going to try and be a man of collections and get things going, have things done. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I don't have any first edition shinies without the symbols on the right hand corner, unfortunately. If an opportunity arises, I will pick one up at a reasonable price. But until then, I will not have any. Except the Machamp, but that doesn't really count. Anyway, if you watch this video, thank you, and have a good day.